Today I want to show you how to do a successful whip transition. These things are so cool, they're so much fun when they're done right. They just add so much to your video and they smoothly bring your audience to another shot. Your audience won't even know what's happening, and that's really the trait of a good editor. The audience really shouldn't notice your edits. They should just be glued to the screen and be taken through the story, and you should be like a ninja in the background. So let's look at a few examples of these whip transitions. Okay, so you can see I'm using these transitions to kind of compress time and jump between location. They're really helping me flow as I do like a walking tour throughout the city of Paris. And using these as opposed to straight cuts is much better. I mean, there are still straight cuts in here, but using this whip effect really hides those cuts and makes for a smooth flowing edit. Now let's take a look here down in the timeline panel. You can see that this little short sequence consists of 5 different shots, all of which have whip transitions in between. So if you're going to use whip transitions in this manner, you need to do a little bit of preparation because you're going to be doing most everything in camera, which is really the best way. When you go to edit, you shouldn't have to do anything aside from a little bit of trimming and timing the actual clips. But the majority of the work needs to be done up front in regards to shooting techniques. So let's go over a few tips and tricks on how to create the perfect whip transition. So transition consists of 2 shots. Your first shot you're transitioning out of, and the second shot you're obviously transitioning into. Sorry, transition is a hard word to say over and over again. So to make these transitions effective, you need to know which direction you're moving your whip movement in. So for instance, if I'm going from this landscape shot and we're going from the left, whipping to the right, we need to make sure that our next shot is whipping in from the left to the right in the same direction. And this helps you make this edit seamless, and it's all one movement. It almost looks like you're just snapping that camera over to in one shot. So it creates that illusion. So for this shot, you can even do a whip tilt. So it's a whip pan, and now this is a whip tilt. We're going up, and so we need to make sure that our next shot comes up to match that shot. Now, since this is a sequence of clips, I had to make sure beforehand that I had a transition in and a transition out of each clip. So I had to time that as well. So that is why you need to do all the planning ahead of time, because you need to make sure that each shot in your sequence, if you're going to do a sequence like this, you need to jot down in a notebook or remember in the directions in which your whip movements are happening from shot to shot. In addition to matching the direction, you also want to match the speed of the whip movement, because if you have 2 shots that you shoot and you have them in the same direction, but you have them at different speeds, and let's say you move really fast and then your next one's a bit slow, it's not as effective. So you want to do relatively each shot in the same speed. And the other important note on speed is that I always like to do my whip transitions quite fast. And the reason I like to do them fast is because it gives me extra motion blur when you snap that camera around. And motion blur really allows you to hide that cut. If you look here, the cut happens right here. But since our shots are blurry, it kind of hides it quite well. And also, a quick pro tip, to achieve more motion blur, you want to shoot at a slower shutter speed, and then you'll get more motion blur. This was shot at a relatively low shutter speed. I had to manually adjust that. In addition to direction and speed, you can also use a quick tip of really paying attention to the brightness levels or the colors of your shot that you're transitioning, the 2 shots that you're transitioning. And if you can match the relative brightness levels, it will really help your transition be completely seamless. So for instance, in this shot, this is a raw clip here. I transition into this shot of the street, and then I do a quick snap up. And that's the raw there. Now for my next shot, I want to come from the ground and snap up to my shot, which I do. Now to edit these together, let's go first to this shot. Now you see these 2 are going to work well together because I snap up and it's just completely blown out. So I'm going to edit my spot to right there from the transition out. And now for the transition in, I can go to a really bright spot right here. And now that should look pretty seamless. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, completely seamless. So if you can match the relative, that works really well actually. Now, if you can do the same thing with dark areas, really makes these transitions seamless. So for the last tip is shoot multiple takes and get adequate coverage. So if, let's say you're out shooting and you didn't plan ahead and you don't know what position or what direction and you want to do your whip transitions, you can shoot multiple takes. So here, for instance, I shot the Eiffel Tower and I wanted to transition out of this Eiffel Tower shot. So I did a shot from starting right, going left, and then I had another shot here whipping out to the right, and then I shot two where I did a whip tilt, and then I did a whip tilt down. So now when I bring this into my edit room, I have plenty of takes to pull from. The only, ironically, I didn't use these because if you look, my shutter speed was just too high, and when I tried to use these, it just didn't look as nice as those really soft and really heavy motion blur effects. So use all these tips and you should have some very nice, seamless whip transitions.